many of the companies that started literally went up in flames, and that was the end of them. So we've been told that the number of companies that kicked off and didn't make it around, between when we started and now is over 20. So the failure rate has been very, very high, and painful. And on each of those areas that I've mentioned, those were landmines that could have blown us up as well. So it's a high school fees type business. And you almost wish you knew all of this stuff when you started, because life would have been a lot easier. So just talking through all of those, I mean, I've mentioned some of these barriers already. The safety, health, environment, scale is one of them. Some guys, unfortunately, started, but thinking they would start with one small reactor and do 10 tons a day. But the economies of scale are such that if you're not at least 30, forget it. And no one would know that unless you've tried it. And we started on 36. And that was luck, right? You're just not going to know some of this stuff. So what we've created is a group company that has, for almost everything that I've mentioned, is that middle business. That's the one that takes tires, removes the carbon, removes the steel, sends those back in a circular economic fashion, and also creates the oil. Invequity and the NEF basically came on board to help us with the other two, which basically enhance and completely leverage the benefits of the entire system. So the first one is Mandini Resize, and that is focused completely on the mining industry. So all of the tires that we've been receiving from the government have been, passenger tires, and primarily Coca-Cola truck. We call them heavy commercial tires and forklift tires. So those are the tires we've primarily, most of that 80,000 have been those. But then you've also got these mountains of tires that are sitting 600 kilometers away in the Northern Cape, where a lot of the mines are, in eMalahleni in the Northern Cape. And at some point, you've also got stockpiles that you can see from space in Botswana, a lot of those De Beers mines. So those are the types of opportunities we want to start chasing next, to create downsizing operations at a much higher gate fee than the 31 cents. So we've negotiated right now with Michelin. Michelin has now partnered with us so that they can do a cradle-to-grave solution. They sell a tire to a mine, and they can collect an old tire, use reverse logistics, bring it to us, and we can downsize it in the area, and then it's a lot easier to bring it back on empty trucks that would be coming back empty anyway. So a much lower carbon footprint. So that's that whole side of the business, which is the resize side, which is to go closer to where the mines are, downsize these things so that it's easier to transport them back. Because the alternative is trying to use abnormal load trucks. And I'm sure you know that the price of that just blows everything out of whack. So there's that, which is very, very important to us. And then there's Mandini Refine. And that is taking all of the carbon that we've created to a separate factory that we've now built that processes this product and creates a very high level quality beneficiated carbon that can go back into the market. So depending on the level of beneficiation you are, there's different pricing. If you do nothing, absolutely nothing, and it just comes out, we used to spend about 77 cents a kilo to get rid of it while we were focusing on parts of the business that could make us money. Nowadays, doing nothing, you can actually give it away for free, and then people will process it themselves. We're at a point now where we've been, for a chunk of it, we've been selling for about 50 cents a kilo, and we've been selling to the biggest rubber manufacturer for 5 rand. But again, that's because we weren't selling a pelletized product. At pelletized, you then go up to about 10 rand a kilo, and then To go to 16 or 20, we would have to get one more piece of equipment which will mill it into a very tiny product. Then you'd be talking of a surface area that is, or particle size that's about 10 micron, which is about 1/100th of a millimeter. So if you look at the tip of your nail and you broke that up by 1,000, it would be 10 of those. So you can't see it with the naked eye, but then that kind of product then becomes very valuable in places like the plastics industry, because it's a one-to-one substitution for virgin carbon black. So I've spoken a bit about the Mandini resize and the whole mining side of the business. But again, one of the places that we're going to put up our first downsizing operation will be in Katu. And not Old Mutual, Anglo American has put aside some land for us, which is outside of the mine. The last thing you ever want to do is work on a mine. So it'll be outside the mine. We'll be transporting these things to the site. All of the other mines in the area can then bring it. So we've just done a deal that should be kicking off in January for another mine in the area, and that can also go to this downsizing area. Until this is set up, we will be doing the long-haul reverse logistics to Our Road. And down the line, once we've built our large-scale facility, we actually looking to have two facilities that we're going to build. One in Katu and a larger show site, basically, about 15 kilometers from where our current one is at the moment. So there are quite a lot of benefits that will come from the mining industry. One of them, all the mines have legal abatement plans that they need to fulfill. We've got this partnership that also helps the OEM, the tire OEM that we've partnered with. One of the things we're also talking to the mines about is saying, hey, we don't just want to create jobs. I mean, it's quite easy to do that. We want to create proper entrepreneurship as well. So we've told them, listen, we'll even go as far as putting, if you want a black female entrepreneur that will run resize in the area, that's the type of involvement that we're looking at. And then also the most important one, and I haven't touched on this yet, another area where Invequity is also stepping in is to try and help us with getting or going through the whole process of our carbon credit process. So because of the fact that we're preventing tires from, generating methane, the whole rubber side of things that comes from the carbon black, the steel, so if you start adding all of these things up, we should be able to give and sell carbon credits. And our whole deal with the mines is to start saying, guys, we can actually start using the carbon credits as an affordability element or an affordability lever if we have to. And it just creates a bit of a moat for us when other people try and get into the industry. Another nice benefit that comes from doing these tires that come from the mining industry is that most of them are more than 70% rubber, natural rubber. So we could actually even market our oil as a biofuel, as opposed to, and it just gives us a nice starker contrast to fossil fuels. And then, I've spoken quite a bit about the RCB side. This is something that's growing a lot globally. There are some companies that don't even do pyrolysis, but their business model is simply to just buy RCB from companies that are doing pyrolysis. So there's one in England, for example, that has knocked on our door and said, listen, can we just buy your carbon? Because they've got ways of beneficiating it to levels that would take us even longer to get to. There are some that are already starting to talk about removing the ash. About 15% of the carbon has ash. You start removing the ash, you can then sell some of the products in the ash. So you can remove zinc oxide, you can remove something called silicas, you can make this something called water glass, so you can sell all of those. And once all the ash is gone, the thinking is that you can then start creating, you then at 99% carbon or natural carbon, and then you can start going into things like graphite, battery grade level graphite. So that becomes a very interesting avenue for people to go down. So there are some nice benefits, particularly on the carbon side, for us to look down on. And it's not a surprise that we've partnered with Michelin now. We are having very good chats with not Goodyear, sorry, Bridgestone. And some of the tiptoeing that I've been doing is to say to companies like Michelin and Bridgestone, like, guys, it doesn't make sense for you to back one jockey and someone else to back another jockey, and then you've got two of these entities in Katu. We actually have to find a way to work together, right, in this, because it absolutely makes no sense. So that form of stakeholder engagement is the one that I'm trying to work on the most at the moment. So just to circle back a little bit on the whole impact side and why it'll drive profitability, I've spoken a lot about the whole multi-revenue side of the thing. There's the gate fees we'll be getting from the government, very small. Gate fees we'll be getting from the mines, a lot bigger. Fees from the oil that we sell, fees from the steel that we sell, money from the carbon that we generate at all of the different levels, and then also, of course, the whole carbon credit side of things.